years ago, I asked Virginia Kerr, who is a video marketing strategist and brilliant content creator, how in the world to be more comfortable on camera. This conversation was so good that I decided to reshare it today. So excited to be connecting with Virginia for the very first time. Even though I feel like I know you because I binge all of your content, which I think is the purpose, or what content is supposed to do, is help you feel connected with someone. So it's really cool connecting with you, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Now, what got you into video?
I've been in video since I was a kid. I was fascinated by it when I was 11 years old. I got hooked on local news and literally would follow news anchors like they were rock stars. If they were giving any kind of a public speech, I would go watch them. So it started then, and then I went into television news.
Awesome. And how many years did you do that?
Over 20 years.
Wow. And what brought you into the online space?
Well, when I was in news, so I was in news, and then eventually I shifted into hosting a show because I didn't want to do the morning show anymore. It was way too early.
Okay.
And then I decided I just wanted to be my own boss. So I started an online business while I was working in television, replaced my income. Then I launched my own TV show in the St. Louis market. But that was too much. I was like full-blown workaholic at that point. So I completely left video, and then I missed it so much. And I decided to just start playing with it, having fun with it, teaching what I knew. And then I fell back in love with it. And I started to realize I can do this. I'll just do it on my own terms. I don't have to work for a news station or, work for a production house. I can do it myself in my laundry room. By the way, that's where I am all the time. When
you have the cutest laundry room. You should see mine. Actually, it's in the garage, so that gives you an idea. What do you think it was about being on video, though, and presenting and all that? Because I think I heard somewhere that you originally, I think it was on your Instagram, you said that you used to be actually kind of camera shy, and it kind of brought you some anxiety.
I won't go into all of it unless you really want me to. I do believe that a lot of people who start in television, not all of us, but many of us, we do it to fill a void. We do it because we want to find some kind of self-worth in it. And I truly convinced myself that if I was on television, I would be a somebody one day. As scary as it was, I just knew I was supposed to do it. And that's what pulled me and forced me to push through all that fear. But yes, I would shake tremendously. My first live shot was in Missoula, Montana at the Missoula County Fair. My face was trembling because I was so nervous, and I had to keep a really big smile in order for it to look like I was not having like seizures or something. It was crazy. Fortunately, it was a story that it was appropriate for me to smile like that. But yeah, I was very nervous, and you keep doing something until it becomes your norm, or you find hacks, ways to get over it. And that's a lot of what I teach now, is helping people get over that fear and get more confident on camera, being themselves.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that, because not only did you overcome the fear, but you mentioned earlier you even missed it, and it was something that you love doing. And so even though you're out of the television space, you still return to it because somehow it lured you in and you actually fell in love with video. So what is it about being on camera that you think you're so drawn to and that you love?
It's a few things. First of all, I am in love with sharing people's stories, and I'm very passionate about helping people learn how to do just that, because I believe that our stories are our superpower. It's what connects us. Yeah. It's what helps us to identify the purpose and all the crap that we've lived through. And I love that. The other part of me is I am kind of a freak. I'm a creative type who loves characters. Yeah. I was a theater major my first year in college, and it's just, I was wired to do it.
Yeah. And that's why I told you at the beginning before we hit record that I was personally drawn to your content. And I think so many people are. I mean, you've built what a fan base on 2 different TikTok accounts right now, but it's not just, you're not just preaching like, okay, stand up straight and look at the camera and smile and be yourself. You're not just telling, tactics. You're also adding in so much personality and fun and life into your education. You mentioned being quirky. I was wondering about kind of the decision to infuse a little bit of your humor into it and your personality. Was that difficult, or was that something that you just couldn't contain doing?
I still pull back. I have so many ideas in my head
I love it.
I've not put on my second account. So my first account is all comedy And I started off just doing lip syncs, just doing lip dubs. As much experience as I had in television, I was still afraid to be myself and use my own voice. Eventually, yes, I won't go into that whole story, but I had a video go viral that was extremely cringy and people were very cruel.
Yeah.
And I finally said, I gotta just be me. I can't keep doing these lip dubs and trying so hard. I just need to go all in on me. And if people hate it, they hate it. So I started writing my own scripts, coming up with my own characters, and I loved it. But here's what's crazy. Then I started my other account, which was all about teaching people video to help grow my brand on TikTok. And again, scared to death, didn't know what to do, didn't know how to teach people, even though I was doing it all day on Instagram. I don't know why I thought that because it was a different platform, it was a different style. I mean, it's different because there's different features and things like that. But at the end of the day, you are who you are, and you teach the same people doing the same thing. So, but I also learned a lot about the TikTok algorithm. I knew this is exactly why I started a second account. I knew if I started teaching the people on my first account, they'd be like, what is she doing? This is why we follow her.
Right.
And so I've tested a few of the goofy things on my educational platform. And I'm just gradually going there, but I'm trying not to go full throttle into skits.
Sure. I think you're doing a really good job of blending the two. You said earlier that, this video that went viral and there was, a lot of hate on it. And I think that's what keeps so many of us full, either putting out content, or if we are putting out content, really stepping into it and really doing the kind of stuff that we want to do and being seen. I know Periscope, I don't know if you remember that was several years ago, but I mean, I had a pretty good following on Periscope, and then there was this one guy and I don't know why it got to me, but he said that my forehead was big, and it just I don't know why, but that one comment, I literally didn't post for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, and I was just like, those one little comments, they just know what to say. And I've always questioned, like, why did I let that get to me so bad? And now I know so many people I talk to, and even sometimes with this show and everything, I still hesitate because I don't want that hater. And I don't know how to move past that. How do you help other people move past the inevitable fear that somebody's going to be an asshole to them?
Wow, it still stings, even when you know that those types of people obviously have stuff going on, that they feel the need to go and hurt someone that day.
Yeah.
I have a client that comes to mind when you say that, and I remember saying to her, you're not here for them. You're not going to be able to serve and help the people you're supposed to help if you're so afraid of what the person that's not for you is going to say.
Yeah.
And you have to get laser focused on who is it that you are meant to serve. That goes back to knowing your story and knowing and realizing that that's your superpower. There are so many struggles I had in my past that if only I had found someone who had shared that story, who had the guts and the courage to share that story, I would have gotten help sooner. So now I see myself as that person. Like, if I don't share my truth, then there's someone out there who might suffer longer. It's again, our stories connect us. We can't let those haters keep us quiet and prevent us from helping and living out our purpose.
How do you identify which parts of your story, though, you need to lean into to kind of develop that voice?
I think the first ones are the ones that hurt so bad that you needed someone to help you. And it's almost like you were given the baton to go and help somebody else. Wow. So for me, that was binge eating and depression. And then when it comes into a professional role, you go back into those stories. Like when I share my story of being afraid on camera, I want them to know that I just didn't come out of my mom's womb and I could be on camera. I want them to know that there was a transformation that happened, because that gives people hope.
Amen, sis. Yeah. I was wondering about just some basic, follow her Instagram and her TikTok for video tips. And I know that you're about to come out with a course. Is that right? Or have you already launched that? Yeah. So connect with her for the concrete tips, because you can get those on her social media platform. But as far as some of the internal work, and I'm sure you cover that as well in your course, that of kind of starting to accept and love yourself. Is that something that just happens one day where you're like, you know what, F it, screw it, I'm doing this, and you just develop that self-confidence? Or is that something that you're constantly having to practice over and over again? And if so, like, do you have any maybe daily tips or practices that kind of help you become a little bit more comfortable in your skin?
I'm a slow learner. It has taken me years to get comfortable in my own skin. I'm
Yeah.
46 years old, and maybe it was a midlife crisis. Maybe it was just time for me to figure this thing out, but it didn't happen it didn't happen at this point until the last couple of years. But I will tell you, and this is why I'm so passionate about what I do. I truly believe, I call video the Viagra of your marketing, because it will help someone connect with you so much faster.
I
But
love
it's
that.
also the same type of catalyst when it comes to your self-confidence. When you start to push through fear and put yourself out there on camera, not just lip dubbing or being funny, but you're sharing your truth. And actually, you can do that in your comedy, because I use a lot of real life experiences to create those skits. But that's when you start to connect with people, because they come up, they respond saying, me too, I get that. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm not the only one.
Yes.
And then you are motivated and encouraged to continue to share more. And you'll never know that feeling. You'll never know that type of courage. You'll never see that purpose in your pain until you put yourself out there and you tell yourself, this is what I tell people, this is what I do to this day. On the days that I'm afraid to, do something out of the box, or I still have a fear of speaking in public, but I will do it.
Really? Wow.
Yes. I tell myself there is one person out there that I can help today. And if I don't get on camera, or if I don't speak at this, conference or whatever the case may be, I'm not going to help that one person. And if I only help one person, I've done my job.
Amen.
And if you can just focus on helping one person, and it takes the focus off of you, and now you've helped one more person than if you had stayed quiet.
Yep. Okay. So I want to help people. I want to dig into my story. I want to show up more myself, but I'm not creative and I don't know how to come up with ideas. What do I do?
Everyone's creative.
Yeah.
We're all creatives.
Yeah.
We're all creatives in our own way. I have a really good friend, and she is one of those spreadsheet details, understands technology, loves emails, all the things that like make my toenails curl. But that's a creative. She could, if I wanted to, she could come into my house and help organize everything and organize systems and put it all. That's a creative. She's just creative in a different way. Would she ever get on video and do skits? Absolutely not. Yeah. But she's using her gifts and her talents and creating things that will help people in her own specialty, in her own way.
Where do you personally draw inspiration from for all your ideas? Because it's so diverse. You have so much content that you're putting out. Wow. Where do you draw inspiration from?
One of the things that, going back to talking about which stories do you know are the ones that you should share first, I call myself out when I had to quit drinking because I was drinking too much, when I was binge eating, when I was suffering from depression. It was when I told on myself that I gave that power, or I took it back from whatever that, addictive behavior was.
That's powerful.
And when you do that, it motivates you to continue to want to do more of that. You tell on yourself because it helps you, but you also tell on yourself because you can connect with other people. I don't know if I just answered your question.
You did. You did. One of the things too I admire about you is your conciseness. I always feel so guilty when I watch your videos because you're like, don't say this. And I'm like, I literally just said that 2 minutes ago. In fact, when I DM'd you, I think I wrote originally, I would love to connect with you on the podcast. I said, no, you're not supposed to use this word. And so one of the things I admire about you is just your conciseness when you speak. There's just so much, you don't say more than you're supposed to. They're filler words. It's clear. And did that come from your training on TV? Is that something you still struggle with? I would love to become more concise. And I think that's one of the most difficult skills to develop.
Well, going back to telling on yourself, now I know what the original question was. So it goes with this. I am always using real life experiences and mistakes that I've made and lessons that I've learned. So when I talk about don't do this and don't say this, I did all those things. I learned the hard way how to make it better. And yes, reporting, you only get so much time. As the years went on, when I was in television, the time allotted to tell our stories when I was a reporter kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So you literally, I tell my clients this is really hard in the beginning, trying to edit yourself. But if you continue to do it consistently, you will train your brain to only use and say the parts that matter the most. And to this
Right.
day, I don't edit inside the TikTok app. What I do is I shoot it on my phone. I go into an app and I try to get I'm not as good as I was on my first account. I try to get them, relatively short. I try to stay around the 30-second range on my teaching account. So I'm always taking things out. Could I say this in a text bubble instead of say it out loud? Or did I repeat myself in some way? Or do they really need to hear this? Do they really care? Or was that 5 seconds really that funny? Does it move the video forward? Or is it going to prevent someone from watching the whole thing? And then I'll take it out if I think that it will prevent them from watching.
Correct me if I'm wrong. That feels like that's a little using both left side and right side of the brain, because when I think of like creativity, kind of comedy, you know what I mean? They're out there, and thinking about editing back, balancing those two skill sets. Am I wrong? Like assuming that those are kind of two
No, you're
opposite
right.
ends of
I've never thought of it that way, but yes.
Yeah, interesting. So what's your dream? What do you want to go from here?
I'm in limbo. I have this feeling, and probably because I've been living long enough, that I know you're always being prepared for the next chapter. So I know this is not the end of it all. I know that I won't just stay satisfied with what I'm doing right now, even though I'm really satisfied and happy with it right now. I have this strange vision. I live out in the farm in a small town in Illinois, and I live on my husband's, it's his family's house that they built when he was a kid. And we have all this farmland out back and all these sheds that I used to detest. All I wanted to do was convince him to leave this place. And now I'm realizing that I am so blessed to have what I have. Even those ugly ass sheds in the back. One of them we've just transformed. I had thought I had convinced him to get rid of the other one, but instead I have now decided I am going to turn that into a she shed, and I am going to have the show in the she shed one day.
I love that. Absolutely.
I don't know exactly who's going to be on the show in the she shed, but this is where it's going right now in my head.
Telling stories, some more storytelling for you.
Probably the show that I created in St. Louis, except it'll be in my backyard.
What was the show you created in St. Louis?
It's called The Thread. It's still on the air here, and it's all about people sharing their stories and giving people hope. So they share how they overcame something, and now they're using that experience to help someone in a similar situation. And going back to what you were saying about marrying the teaching with the comedy, entertainment, that was exactly what we did, except it wasn't teaching, it was inspiration and comedy. So it was a very quirky show. My co-host and I we're freaks, but we really believe in people sharing their stories and connecting people. So that was that same type of formula, except it was inspiration and not education.
Is that online anywhere that you can watch it, or is it you have to be in Illinois?
Oh
no.
Yeah, the Thread is on YouTube. Yes.
I'll have to look that up, because I literally wrote down the other day that inspiration and comedy, I'm interested in both those things, but figuring out how to blur those together. So I'm going to have to check that out. You said hope twice in this interview. Why is hope so important to you?
Everybody needs to know that as dark as their life might be right now, there is another side. I'm getting emotional because I remember feeling this way. I remember feeling like you were just cursed. You were never meant to be happy. And I truly was convinced that I would never be happy, that I didn't know what happy was. This is just what it was. And now that I'm living on the other side, and I know there are so many people, especially women, I have such a heart for women who they take it as it comes, and they just assume this is all that they're worth having. Like they don't deserve to have more. They don't deserve to have, peace and be happy. And that makes me so sad, because I know that feeling, but I also know that the truth is no one was meant to feel that way.
Yeah.
And so if I can give anybody hope to, push through the fear or go after a dream, maybe they go after it and they realize it's not for them, but at least they know they didn't live wondering, Yeah.
When did it flip for you where that, I don't know, some healing started to take place and you really started just stepping into your power?
It was a slow process, because the binge eating and the depression went on for over 20 years before I got help. And so in my early 30s, I finally got help, but I didn't realize that all of that was happening because of, childhood trauma. Right. So the binge eating turned into binge drinking, and then it turned into daily drinking. And, I was a very functioning person who would get wasted by myself at night.
Yeah.
And when I decided to call it quits, and the only way I could do it, I mean, this is just how I did it, is I called myself out on Instagram. I have another Instagram account where I just outed myself. And when I did that, that's when I had to peel back the layers and ask myself, what did you do before you drank like that? What did you do before life got complicated? And it was the video stuff when I was a kid. That's when I started this whole thing. Yeah. And I didn't even know I was going to do it as a business. I just started talking about it on a different Instagram account, offering advice. Then TikTok happened and I started having fun with that. So the old theater days, you know, came back, and I'm just owning who I am. It took me freaking long enough, but here I am.
Yeah. Is it the women you work with, is this a recurring theme? I'm assuming it is, just from my own personal experience, that, you know, maybe they come to you at first thinking like, oh, help me with the tactical pieces of video. And then it maybe flips into some more internal stuff that's the hard work, or is that a high assumption? Yeah.
Always, because all those fears and those self-doubts come from something that's happened or been said to us, or we're self-sabotaging because we don't believe we deserve to move forward and succeed. Some of them, they keep pushing and they're doing things that I'm like in awe of. Others, I won't hear from them. Yeah. And I go to their accounts and they're still, I feel sad for them because they're right where they started. And it's because they have all that they need. They asked for all this information and they wanted to know what the content was supposed to be. And they wanted the plan and the system and all the how-tos, but they're still not doing it.
Yeah.
I can't do it for you.
Right. Where does it come from though? That's the hard part. Where does healing come from?
I believe that you first have to even identify it. Like I said before, I was actually on a podcast, and it was a woman that I listened to, and I was trying to stop drinking, and she was asking me about something, and she called it trauma. And I never this was over a year ago, but I was like, trauma? I mean, I didn't think it was that serious, but it was just because we lived with that. My dad was bipolar, and it was a very dysfunctional situation. But because we just pretended like everything was okay and brushed it away, I just put it in my past. And it wasn't that I forgot it. It's just that I never identified it as a problem, or that's something that, you know, I shouldn't have had to deal with. So you first have to identify what is it that's causing that much pain. I recommend therapy to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen.
You have to go the rest of your life, or that you have to go every week, but you need someone to help you organize your thoughts, and someone who's not emotionally attached to it to recognize that was not okay that person did that to you.
Absolutely.
Or you have a pattern. Do you see this pattern of you self-sabotage or hurting yourself and others?
This is good, man. Talk about video and we go over here, but you know, I love this saying, like the inner work is the work. That's the meat of it all. But before we go, I know times go by so fast. I do want to ask you about TikTok. I love the platform. It's so much fun. What do you think it was about that just kind of settled in with you, or you wanted to make it home?
I remember my very first TikTok, and I was standing right here, and it was so goofy and ridiculous. It was so fun though. Like I felt like a kid again. And I do, yes, there are haters on there. There are haters on every platform, but I love the culture and the community on there of just being yourself.
Yes. And
it's this freedom that as adults, especially adult women, we forget we have. And it's liberating. It's so fun.
What's something you wish you would have known before you started about TikTok that you think has been game changing for you?
That's a good question. I wish I would have gotten on and used my voice sooner.
Like your physical voice?
My physical voice sooner.
Really?
Yes.
How come?
Because first of all, if you're trying to grow a community and a brand on there, you can only get so far with lip dubs. You have to start using going back to how you feel connected to someone when you watch them on video. It's the voice, it's the expressions, and obviously it's the message that they're giving that's causing you to feel that connection. So it's very two-dimensional if you're only using your face and your expressions, but someone else's words and someone else's voice. And there's something, I mean, we say all the time, we need to find our voice. literally, you need to find your voice on there by using your voice. And yes, some of these videos are going to fail and flop. You have to have the mindset of, I'm going to fail forward. I'm going to test. It's just a test. If it doesn't do well, so what? Or it's funny on that first account, if something didn't hit the tens of thousands, I was horrified. I mean, I was a spoiled TikToker. Okay. I had a lot of views, but the algorithm changed. And this was before TikTok went,
Right.
just blew up with the whole shutdown when everybody got on the app. So on my second account, I didn't have that mindset. I just had the mindset of, I'm going to keep testing to see what works and what doesn't work, and I'm going to keep getting better at this. And if the video doesn't get a lot of views, I'm going to leave it up there anyway. Not because maybe it'll wake up one day. You hear people talk about that. You'll get delayed, whatever they call it. But instead, what if one person is helped by that video that only got 300 views or something? So I just leave them there, just in case somebody was supposed to see it one day.
Yeah. I think there's so many implications of not using your voice, like physically, because we beat ourselves up so much. Either we don't like the sound of our voice, or, we watch it over and over again, like, oh, I don't look beautiful right there, and all of this stuff. So letting go of some of that self-criticism and over editing yourself. Any tips there?
One of the first things that came to mind when you were asking that is, as soon as you start to beat yourself up, I want you to ask yourself, who on TikTok do you like to follow and that you are inspired by and encouraged by? I bet you there are days they get on there with no makeup, they haven't done their hair, and you did not care. You just needed to hear what they had to say that day. Now, on the other side, I'm a big, I'll go without makeup and I'll have my hooker lashes on every time. I'm a little bit extra in that category. I take a shower every day, but here's why. It's not for everybody watching, it's for me. I have a better day when I wash my hair and I put my hooker lashes on, and I'm more confident and I'm more likely to go all out on camera than if I was not all dolled up. I don't think you have to be all dolled up. In fact, most of the people I watch, they don't wear any makeup on camera, and I love them for that. But for me, I like to wear makeup, so I wear it. Doesn't mean you have to, though. But yeah, I just think that you need to stop overthinking and start to look at it as a consumer. When you consume content, what's most important to you? What is that thing about that person that draws you in and makes you like them? I bet it's not their hair. I bet it's not because they had a cute outfit on. It might have been one thing that grabbed your attention, but that's not the thing that keeps you coming back.
That's gold. That's gold.
Unless they're a beauty blogger or like a fashion,
that
kind of person.
Those people. You mentioned videos flopping. What's the difference between something just not working that one time and then also knowing that this content needs to shift and change? This wasn't, bad videos or bad timing. This is actually a shift you need to make with your brand.
Well, I think that, a lot of people, they want those views, and they have to understand that if you're just on there to go viral, if you're just on there to get a ton of views, you're not going to attract the right people. If you're trying to grow a brand, you've got to be really specific about who you are, your stories, your quirks, all those things, and exactly how you help people. Then you've got to really focus on who is it that I help? And you've got to start creating content that person is looking for. I did similar to what I do on Instagram. I started to branch out my content on my educational TikTok platform, because I know that my ideal person isn't just looking for video tips. Now, the majority of my content, video tips, but I know that she is a working mom who's very busy, who is, full of dreams and ideas, but doesn't have all the time. She's dealing with mom guilt. She's dealing with, not having enough time in the day. So I squeeze in videos that address those things, because my ideal person needs more than just video tips. She needs inspiration, encouragement, life hacks on how to do all the things. And the one I'm going to work on today is how to get over the mom guilt right now during quarantine. And you know what? I got it because I have it myself.
Sure.
So a lot of times I take things that I'm struggling with, and then I identify the things that are helping me get through that, and I make content on that.
Oh.
And that helps people get to know you in a personal way.
Yeah. Is it fair to say your ideal client is often just you a few steps
Yes.
ago? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Time has just flown by. I have one final question for you. Where can people connect with you online? You mentioned you have a course coming out, and if you are not on TikTok, get on TikTok and check out her account. It is so much fun, so well done. Where can they find you online?
I am at This Is Virginia Kerr. That's Kerr on TikTok. That is what I am. It's 1 R on my funny account, and it's 2 R's on my educational account on TikTok. And then on Instagram, This is Virginia Kerr, and thisisvirginiakerr.com is my website.
Wonderful. And when's your course come out?
Oh, that's a great question. I need to be working on it today.
I keep asking you about your course. I'm like, when is it?
It's going to be in August for sure.
Wonderful.
And it's called This is Video School.
It'll be so much fun. Very last question. First of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. It's just such an honor connecting with you, to learn from you, hear your experiences. And I also wanted to mention too, it's wonderful learning from you all of your wisdom, but also to the vulnerability that you're willing to share with us. It just empowers us as your viewers to step into it, because we think about how imperfect we are, and looking at someone who's so confident and has it so, in our eyes, well put together and never struggles, and knowing that you've had your own struggles and you're willing to share that. That's such a gift to us. So thank you for your vulnerability and willingness to do that. Speaking of, let's go back in time a little bit, reverse it, and say we were to go back to Miss Virginia back. She was in TV and hosting, and maybe hadn't stepped fully into her full self and voice and owned who she was, and maybe was still working through some of the quote trauma, the issues that she had gone through in her past. If you were to go and sit with that young woman, sit with her and say, Miss Virginia, I want you to understand this, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that she needs to stop trying to impress everybody and being something that she's not. That it's okay that you're not a serious journalist. You're not going to be on 60 Minutes one day. You were not meant to do that. You're not meant to be on the Today Show. You've got, dang it, you're making me cry. I think it's PMS. You've got so many more people to help, and they're not going to be able to find you if you keep pretending to be something you're not.
Amen. Big hugs to you. Thank you so much for coming on today. It was awesome connecting with you.
It was an amazing interview. You're really good at this.
Thank you so much.